say, I'm liking that new intro. A lot. Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the great folks over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the viewing party, and if you missed us, you're going to get another chance. We're going to be there throughout the year. Details on that are coming soon. Just minutes from the arena. Come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for with arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the street food menu. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. The game is going to begin in, I'm bad at math, but 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours away from puck drop are we today on Canucks Conversation. My name is Dave Quadrelli. That is Harmon Dial, joining me from a LA hotel room.
Yeah, in LA Live, walking distance from the rink over at Crypto.com Arena. By the way, this doesn't really apply to anybody listening, but as a funny backstory, I've been to a lot of rinks around the NHL. Crypto.com is the worst as far as actually trying to get in. The amount of times that I've been denied by security and not on visiting media lists, it's been insane. And it's been multiple days in a row where Canucks PR has had to literally like come from inside the rink, walk outside, and be like, "Yeah, this guy's legit," and then let me in. So that's been really funny.
That is a David Quadrelli level of pettiness that you opened the show just ripping the security guard who had the audacity to not know who you were. I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you. I would absolutely open the show the exact same way. People want some practice updates, Arm. You were there at morning skate today. Eric Stevens, your colleague over the Athletic Southern California, is going to join us in a matter of moments. But before that, Harm, you were at morning skate, you were at practice. Give us some updates from the road. Although people heard from you yesterday when you texted me, we were on air, and I was like, "Look, Harmon's contributing to the show all the way from the road. He's not on the show today, but I read one of your updates that you texted me." But Jackson in the chat is asking, like, what have you seen, heard from Dakota Joshua? Let's start there.
Yeah, so Joshua didn't skate either at practice yesterday or today at morning skate. He's not going to play, right? Earlier, it sounded like he was a possibility to play against the Kings. I don't know if I'd call it a setback necessarily, just because even watching him at practice on, I believe it was Friday at UBC, when this idea came up that, he may be ready to play next week, I remember just thinking back to watching him at practice and going, is he really that close? Just based off the pace and movement at which he was going at. He hadn't really even been engaging in many battle drills at the time. Now, he did practice on Monday in Anaheim, where they did have more of those down low battle type environments where there is a little bit more physicality involved, and he looked good in that. But I'm not surprised that he isn't ready to play this week. It always sounded a bit optimistic, and even when Joshua spoke on Friday after that practice at UBC, he seemed to be pumping the brakes a little bit, as if to say, I am getting better every day, but I still don't know exactly when I'm going to be coming back. So I wouldn't be too worried or concerned about him not being ready to play today against the Kings.
And Rick Tocchet said after practice yesterday, after morning skate, that it wasn't a setback. And Harm, you just brought something up that we talked about yesterday. The idea, again, Joshua spoke, and one thing he said was that he doesn't want to just get back and feel like he's ready to play. He wants to get back and feel like he's ready to make an impact. Like, he doesn't want to just get a feel for it and start slow. I wondered about a conditioning stint. Like, I'm really not sure if he's gonna have one. It doesn't sound like he is, especially if he's with the team now, but it feels like it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. Like, it doesn't feel like a bad idea to maybe have Joshua go down on a conditioning stint, but that's just my opinion. Demko, I don't want to see him on conditioning stint. I talked about this with JPAT yesterday. Keep those knees fresh. Every movement he does should be a movement at the NHL level. Any updates on Thatcher Demko? What have you seen from him?
Yeah, so yesterday at practice, it was a lot of solo work. He wasn't even around for the full practice, and I'd hesitate to call it being a full participant in practice, because he wasn't really getting the same workload as Lankinen and Shelovs. It is a positive step that he was at least part of the regular session, but again, he wasn't in net for most of practice. Like, he took some shots early, but then afterwards he was doing some solo work on the ice. Again, left early. So I'd call it another baby step in his progress. And the other thing I'll say is, watching him on, like, I already discussed how he kind of looked when he was skating after morning skate, I believe it was in Anaheim, where he was sort of moving maybe around, I'd call it 70% pace. You were asking about, has he gone into the reverse VH yet? That's going to be a major tell. I haven't seen him do that yet. So that, again, I think is going to be another baby step that we're watching for him to cross before we really get excited about this possibility that he might be close to playing.
Okay, Kevin Lankinen starts in goal tonight. No real surprise there for me, Harm. Jeff and I talked about the goaltending stuff yesterday, so I don't think we have to with you and I. I feel like there's not much to say at this point. Like, Lankinen's been their guy, and I think they need to stick with him really as long as they can. So I have no issue with them starting Lankinen tonight. I think they should stick with them. Again, Jeff brought up the idea that maybe if you wait for the first back-to-back, which is coming up next weekend, after this one, if you're waiting for the first back-to-back, all of a sudden that's 2 weeks for Sheloves without games. Maybe that's not the best situation for him, but like, this team needs wins. Like, they need to pick up wins, and I don't really have a problem with them just kind of riding Lankinen as long as they can. But we'll see what route the Canucks go there. Any other lineup notes? It looks like they're sticking with the same lineup. Any other lineup notes that you wanted to get to before we start talking about the opposition here with the LA Kings?
Not a lot. Just wanted to say that as far as the blue line, this isn't really lineup related per se, but I feel like in the last game or two, is it just me, or has Desharnais started to settle in a little bit better, at least compared to his start, which was, of course, a bit of a train wreck? It seems like he's not standing out for negative reasons as much lately.
Do you want to hear my take on it? Is that I think Erik Brannstrom is really settling down Vincent Desharnais. Like, I think Desharnais is realizing what he has in his D partner. And I think, again, I'd have to manually track this, but from what I remember, like, one thing that Desharnais has done that looks better is, instead of just firing the puck up the glass, he's just finding Erik Brannstrom. Like, he's drawing defenders in, right? Like, he's holding onto the puck, and then he's just finding Erik Brannstrom. He's not panicking, and he's just finding Erik Brannstrom, and then Brannstrom's the one moving the puck out of the zone. That's all you got to do. Like, that's what he did with Brett Kulak, and honestly, that's when Desharnais was at his best in Edmonton. We're going to be joined by Bag Milk tomorrow, so we'll talk about the Oilers, and I'm sure we'll talk about Big Vinny, but that's when he was at his best in Edmonton, was when he was with Brett Kulak, a guy who is a quietly good puck mover, and a guy who can move the puck out, whether that's with a pass or whether that's with wheeling it out of the zone. Kulak was able to do that, and of course, Brannstrom's also able to do that. So I look at it and say he's just kind of realizing what he actually has in Erik Brannstrom as a D partner. That's kind of the way I've looked at it.
Yeah, I like that take. And as far as the blue line, it is shocking as far as Carson Soucy is going to need to be a lot better. I know we've talked about it a few times before, early anyway, where he's been struggling. But even in that Anaheim game where the Canucks were so dominant and he still struggled so prominently, where again, every time he seems to get the puck, he can't seem to do anything right with it. And against a Kings lineup that's far deeper, that has more offensive weapons to punish you with, they're not going to as easily be able to get away unscathed if Soucy has the type of performance he did against Anaheim.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about Soucy? Or, like, Jeff and I yesterday were like kind of talking about, okay, we don't really need to talk about Elias Pettersson. We did, but we were like, we don't really need to talk about him after that game. We don't really need to talk about Carson Soucy. It feels like, I feel like with Soucy and with Pettersson, we're just waiting for like a good game. We're waiting for a really good standout game.
Yeah, it's just so strange because in Soucy's case, he was so good last year. It's amazing how much his poise with the puck has seemingly change year over year. And again, this was a player that in Seattle wasn't he wasn't a great puck mover. This is when I watched the tape on him in the playoffs right before he signed in Vancouver. A lot of pucks would get dumped into his corner, and it was sort of similar to now, where even in a third pair role when he was playing further down the lineup, it was okay. He can't seem to really move the puck. He doesn't seem to have the agility, the poise under pressure to make plays, and that's a question mark I have as far as whether or not he's going to be able to be successful in top four role. It seemed like he really took a step in a positive direction in that part of his game last year, where I remember posting a video clip at some point last season of him. It might have been a game against Jersey, where he had 3 or 4 defensive zone retrievals in a row where he made a poised play. And again, it wasn't necessarily him wheeling around the net and looking like a stud on the breakout, but just that simple 10-foot pass to the winger to make sure that they're breaking out cleanly. Whereas now, every battle he's seeming to lose down low when it is a 50-50 to go back and get that puck. Every time he is looking up and scanning his options, he is seemingly just giving it away. It's been tough, and I think that's really the root cause of why he's been struggling.
And I mean, we were talking about in-zone defending yesterday when we did talk about Susie, was just that, like, he's been missing assignments. Missed Fabian Zetterlund at the end of the game against the Sharks, and that was him, Myers, and I think it was also JT Miller. But like that one almost ended up in the Canucks net. Like I don't really know how to diagnose it, because it's more than just one thing with Susie right now, which is just weird. Like we just haven't seen it. So anyways, we just haven't seen it from him through his Canucks tenure, and now we're seeing him struggle. So anyways, I apologize. It sounds like we're having some technical difficulties. Everything sounds fine to me. Harm, you sound great. I'm sure I sound great. But people are saying that there's some issues. But this will just be on the YouTube live show, unfortunately. It'll be fixed for the podcast because StreamYard is a mess. But anyways, we haven't heard from Eric yet, Eric Stevens. So he might join us. Might that one might fall through, unfortunately. But Eric Stevens of The Athletic is set to join us. I'm wary of starting Family Feud, because if we do, Eric might just be waiting for 10 minutes watching us play Family Feud and be very, very confused. But we're going to have to start Family Feud at some point. But before we do that, Harm, I quickly want to talk about this LA team. First of all, I didn't know that Kyle Burrows got traded to the Kings. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Of course you did. I didn't. I really didn't. Like, I know he signed the 3-year contract in San Jose. I thought, yeah, he's going to be on the Sharks, and I did not realize that he got traded for Carl Grundstrom to the Kings. So Kyle Burrows, you're going to see him tonight. Quickly looking at the rest of the Kings lineup here. Brant Clark. I took him in the Canucks Army Fantasy League. He's been absolutely phenomenal, both for my team and for the LA Kings. His start, that's the biggest thing I want to talk to Eric about if we're able to get him eventually, is that the step that Brant Clark's taken, like, he's a star player now.
Yeah, I'm also really curious to get Eric's take, not just as far as the point totals, because we know that he has really seamlessly taken over Power Play 1 quarterback responsibilities from Drew Doughty, who's still out of commission, but 5-on-5 play as well. Early in the season, it felt like some of his minutes were sheltered and there were still some highs and lows defensively. But it seems like he is taking a step in the right direction, even as far as his even strength play is concerned, and cutting down on some of those defensive miscues. And it seems like his minutes workload is going up. And as far as why the Kings have been able to win a lot of games despite Doughty's absence, Gavrikov has quietly been a massive driver of their success. He's logged massive minutes, all situations. He even spent some time playing as offside on the right side. He's been a huge minute muncher and a major reason why the Kings, him and Clark, for why the Kings have been able to continue winning games despite Doughty being out.
I don't want to take a victory lap just yet, but remember what I said about Darcy Kemper, about how much I liked that PLD trade for them? Darcy Kemper, in an actual defensive environment, not looking too shabby. And he's also good enough that it's like, it's allowing them to open up their system. They're not doing that 1-3-1. Like this should be a more entertaining game than any game we saw the Kings play last year. So I'm looking forward to tonight's game. I'm not taking a victory lap on it yet. You don't have to comment on that. Just Darcy Kemper, .899 save percentage start the year. Nothing spectacular, but
we're taking a victory lap over a guy with an .899 save percentage.
Okay, but he also has a shutout, and he's also been responsible for a lot of their wins. You can't take that away.
I mean, the Kings have been winning games in the past regardless of what goaltending they've gotten.
Yeah, with this airtight defensive, they've opened up the defensive system. He's had to make bigger saves than Cam Talbot had to make last year. So don't give me that.
Dude, you cannot take a victory lap over a guy with an .899 save percentage yet. It's too early.
Fine. I'm telling you that he's a difference maker.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but this is just
I'm not right
blasphemous.
Yet. I'm not right yet.
Moj would be very unhappy.
Moj is probably unhappy. Yeah, he watches a lot of our shows.
Definitely shaking his head on the exercise bike.
All right. Harm, seriously though, this LA lineup, Quentin Byfield on the third line. Like, Quentin Byfield is coming into his own as well. They're getting a lot of these younger guys just to really step up. And obviously we talked about Brant Clark, but like Quentin Byfield as well.
Well, Byfield actually hasn't even, like, he's had a slow start. He only just scored his first goal recently. He's only got 7 points in 14 games. The big surprise for them breakout-wise has been Alex Laferriere. He's got 8 goals and 13 points in 14 games. Basically, all of that production is 5-on-5. And Laferriere was a rookie last year. He was sort of this high-energy, speedy, forechecking grinder in their top 9 who couldn't really finish, who generate a lot of shots, generate a lot of chances, but didn't have a lot of dynamic skill. And now as a sophomore, he's just completely popping off. Now, part of it is he's riding a really high shooting percentage, and that'll eventually come back down to earth. But he's like, his step as an offensive producer, I don't think anybody could have seen him second in Kings scoring so far, points wise, and already up to 8 goals. That's been a massive surprise for them.
Okay, anything else you want to get to on the Kings? We got to go to anyone else. Or excuse me, we got to go to Family Feud here.
No, let's go to Family Feud.
All right, we're going to go to Family Feud in a second, but quickly I wanted to tell you about our friends over at the Vancouver Whitecaps. Whitecaps FC forced a third game of the series with an emphatic 3-0 victory in front of a raucous crowd at BC Place on Sunday night. The Caps head to California to close out the series in what will be their 7th visit to BMO Stadium in the last 2 seasons. The winner of Friday's clash will face Seattle Sounders FC in the MLS Cup Playoffs Western Conference semifinals. The match is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. and can be found on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV and is available to listen at whitecapsfc.com. In addition, the club will be hosting a free playoff watch party Friday night at Goodco Granville. Sign up to the Whitecaps Insider to get access to the watch party tickets at whitecapsfc.com. All right, take it away, technical producer Jacob Lazar. It's time to play the feud.
I'm your man, Jacob Lazar. And it's another edition of Canucks Conversation, Family Feud. And again, sorry for all the audio issues we're having today. Harmon, obviously, in hotel internet. We had some behind-the-scenes stuff. Podcast should sound silky smooth, though, so fingers crossed on that. And thank you for toughing it out on Twitter and YouTube if you're watching the live show. We appreciate that. All right, guys. I know a few people in the chat over the last couple days said, feud's going to be hard this week. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then I saw the final results, and yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I would say this is your toughest road to victory yet. So, Harm, you're going to have to get off to a good start here.
All right, let's go.
Quads, he's muted. He's got headphones on. I don't know if he can hear us or not. Yep, I think we're good. All right, Harmon, I'll remind you again of your rules. You'll have 25 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. And yes, it'll pop up on screen as soon as I start the timer. And again, if you can't think of an answer, just say pass. We can come back to it at the end if we have time. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Which current Canucks player would you most want to cook a meal for you?
Tyler Myers.
Name a minor
Quinn Hughes.
penalty.
Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Hughes. Okay, name a minor penalty.
Hooking.
Which NHL team has the best uniform?
Montreal Canadiens.
Other than Stan Smeel, name a Canuck from the 1980s.
Tony Tanti.
Name a Canuck who wore jersey number 5.
Sammy Salo.
All right. That's going to be a tough one because I don't think Salo wore 5. He wore number 6.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a brain fart. Oops.
If you want to make a quick change, I'll let you do that. Yeah, okay. All right, you can get Quads back in here, and I'll tally up your score.
I can't believe I missed Ehrhoff. Like, that was...
Give Quads the thumbs up and get him back in. Yeah.
How'd it go?
I did all right on some of them. Definitely messed up one of them.
Okay.
Like, I was like, damn. Like, as soon as we ended it, I was like, how did I forget this, like, one guy?
Okay. So people were telling us in the week that this was going to be a hard survey, and Jacob also told me before the show that this was going to be a tough one to win. So maybe that was reflected. RE45 in the chat said Quads might need a Hail Mary here. So
yeah, this is a tough one.
All right, Jacob, you don't need to tally it up. Let's just get me going.
I just did. 64 points. Actually, Harm, I don't remember what your last Actually, no, you did. I do remember what you said on your last one, and I just got to check. I'm pretty sure it's 0 points anyway.
It's all right.
Yeah,
no,
immediately.
okay, no, it's one. It's 1 point for.
Oh, there you go. That makes it.
Let's
As soon
go.
as, and the funny thing is, as soon as I said that one, like 2 seconds later, I came up with one that would have like had way more points, and I'm just like,
Okay,
I
can
dropped
clutch
the
All
ball
right.
up.
on that one.
Do you want to
I've clutched
know?
up.
Do you want to know what you're up against here, Quads?
Well, Harm got 64. You said.
Oh yes. Well, okay. Actually, it's 65.
Let's
But
go.
there's some number one answers out available for you. So it is possible, but you're gonna have to be perfect.
So
I will
we can
remind
go.
you again of your
Okay.
rules. You're gonna have 30 seconds on the clock. If you need to pass, just say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Are you ready, David Quadrelli?
Do it. Let's do it.
Which current Canuck player would you most want to cook a meal for you?
Quinn Hughes.
Try
Elias
again.
Pettersson.
Name a minor penalty.
Tripping.
Which NHL team has the best uniform?
The Vancouver Canucks.
Name a Canuck from the 1980s other than Stan Smeel.
Richard Brodeur.
Name a Canuck who wore jersey number 5.
Christian Ehrhoff.
There you go. Okay, that's a good showing, Quads.
Ehrhoff didn't wear 5.
Now, actually, I will admit,
did.
Harm, I don't remember
No.
if you said tripping for that
didn't.
second question.
Didn't
or
Ehrhoff
not.
wear 6? No, he wore 5.
no, I switched it. So like that one I messed up because originally I don't know why I blame it on the travel and lack of sleep. But originally I was like Sammy Sal, and then I was like, oh wait, no,
he
he
wore
didn't.
6.
Yeah, he wore
funny.
6.
That's
and
hilarious.
then I went Pouliot, and then immediately as soon as I said Pouliot, I was like, wait, no, I missed
Pouliot.
Ehrhoff. How did I miss Ehrhoff?
That's a Quads answer. The first
Yeah, I
thing
know.
thought of was Lucas Spiza, but I was like, no, it's going to be Ehrhoff. That's funny because after I said Ehrhoff, I was like, oh, maybe he wore 6. No, he wore 5.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go through this. Now, a couple things. Harmon, did you say tripping as well, or did you say
No,
hooking?
I said hooking.
Good. Okay, I got that one right.
Those the 1 and 2? Come on, Jacob.
Those
give
were
it
the
to
1
me.
and 2. So tripping and hooking were the 1 and 2. Number
Okay.
3 was mental penalties. I just grouped together all of like the too many man delay game, all
Sure,
that kind of
sure.
stuff.
Sure.
For the meal one, you guys got the number 3 and the number 6 answers.
Oh.
Number 1 was JT Miller. Look, anytime you're asking a current Canuck
What?
question, just
JT
the
can't
fans are
cook.
going to say JT Miller.
JT
I don't
can't
care what the
cook.
question is. The fans are going to say JT Miller.
That's-
He
in the
doesn't know
survey.
how to cook. JT
Yeah,
Miller does not cook.
Oh, I don't disagree with you guys, but that's what
I
the
don't know if
fans
that's
said.
true, actually. I don't know
Um,
if that's true. He might know how.
Tyler Myers was number 2. A lot of people said, "Oh, he's been in the league forever. I'm sure he's learned how to cook by now."
Oh,
Well,
come on.
that's funny.
Sure.
Originally I said Myers, and then I changed to Quinn. But Quinn, I know, is actually a good cook. Like,
Yeah, and so
I
is
talked to him
Petey.
years ago.
So is Petey. Petey's a good cook.
So Hughes and Myers basically had the same number of points. It was 17 or 18 and 17, so it didn't
Okay.
really matter on that switch. Harmon, Arshdeep Baines got 5 votes. A lot of people said, I'm sure he learned from his Indian heritage to make some good food. And I thought, okay, yeah, I can see that. Although I know Arshdeep, I don't know if he cooks at all, but we'll let that one slide. Minor penalty went over. Best uniform. So the Canucks were the number 1 answer, and a lot of people specified the skate.
Come on.
A lot of people specified the skate. Montreal Canadiens were the number 3 answer, and
Nice,
thank you to whoever gave me the shout out filling out the survey. Montreal Canadiens, shout out to Jacob. So thank you to whoever whoever responded with that.
What was number
some
2?
other teams up there? The Chicago
Detroit?
Blackhawks were number 2.
Oh,
the
that makes
Kraken
sense.
at number 4, and I agree. The Kraken have really nice uniforms, and the Buffalo Sabres at number 3. And yeah, you know what? I think the Sabres have a good look. They're classic blue and yellow, and then the black and red throwback jersey is pretty sick too. All right, a 1980s Canuck other than Stan Smeel, Thomas Gradine was the number 1 answer.
That was Harm?
24 points.
No.
But Richard Brodeur got 21. Tony Tanti got 15.
I
Lots
get
of
Tanti.
other, yeah. Harmon said Tanti. Lots of other answers in there. Tiger Williams got a handful. Trevor Linden got some, and that's true. He was drafted in the 80s. Harold Sneps. Just scrolling through the list, you can tell like some of the people definitely wanted to get a little funny. We got a few Jim Bennings, some Darcy Rodas as well, which is a good pull. So yeah, that was a fun one. The fans love when we go to the throwback because you guys seem to struggle on the 70s and 80s and 90s. But
I thought we did pretty good. Richard
you guys
Brodeur,
did well.
come on.
You guys did well.
Okay.
Finally, the last question. So at this point, you guys are at 153 points.
Ooh.
So you're going to need a big one here on jersey number 5, Christian Ehrhoff, 27 points. So you guys finished with 180.
Damn it.
He was the number 1 answer, though. Dana Merzen was the number 2 answer.
Don't even know
Jason
who that is.
Garrison, the number 3 answer.
That's
Lucas
a pull.
Spiza was
Yeah.
up there. Garth Butcher, and my pick, who got 3 other people to submit, was Oscar Fantenberg.
Oh wow, that is.
I went for the deep pull, and a few other people did as well. Derek Pouliot, who was Harmon's salvage pick, got him 1 point.
We got a super
yeah.
chat in the YouTube chat. I gotta shout this out. Went to an AHL game, got a stick from Baines and Jonathan Lekermacki. So thrilled. Anytime you can get 2 sticks, like that's a crazy pull at an AHL game. So shout out to that listener.
Yes,
who gave us
thank you for the super
donation.
chat.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I think that looks.
I see a TV at the end.
Yes, it could be Korean. So we're sorry, but thank you very much for the super chat. We do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys unfortunately dropped back-to-back weeks of
I have
Family
no
Feud.
issue though. Like I think we did good. I think
We did
First of all,
alright.
that was a hard
just a tough
survey.
one.
Would we have won if I had said JT Miller instead of Elias Pettersson?
No, you would have lost by like 4 or 5 at that
Nah,
point.
whatever.
And
Yeah,
we
honestly,
found
I
the
can't be upset then.
Pouliot. We found the Pouliot pick here. So Dakota Joshua Truther on X was the one person that agreed with Harmon there.
Oh, that's so funny. That's great. Oh, it's pronounced Hurigor TV, and it is Korean. Nice. Cool. Shout out to them. Okay, so 5-3 on the year. That record's slowly catching up to us, folks. Is
Yeah.
the next survey ready to go, Jacob?
It is not, but it should be by tomorrow.
Okay, cool. So it'll be there in the description at some point soon. Yeah, Harm, I'm okay with that. That was a
Yeah,
good
it was a
showing.
tough one.
I think that was a good showing. I think we did fine. Also, someone said in the chat that they voted Salo. So even though he didn't wear number 5, you didn't get 0 points for Salo.
I don't
So
know
good on
how
you.
I
so,
messed-
so Harmon switched from I gave him the opportunity to
Yeah.
switch to Pouliot,
Ah.
but which is hilarious. I didn't know somebody else said Salo, so you got 1 point no matter what, even if you
great.
stuck with the wrong answer.
Yeah,
which I guess
yeah,
is the quirk.
That's
Oh,
great.
actually, I feel really bad, Harm. 2 people said Sammy Salo. So the wrong answer actually would have been better.
Yeah, I don't
that's
know
great.
how. Yeah.
Mandela effect.
In my defense, I was still like 10 years old when he was playing.
You know, Sammy Salo's been on this show, hey, back in the day.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
we had
I
Sammy
remember
Salo
now.
on,
Yeah.
and he was a great quote. And for those that haven't heard it, really, really old. I'm sure it's out there if you find it. We definitely didn't delete it. You'd have to scroll for miles. But also, we didn't even talk about it. Today's the 700th episode of Canucks Convo. That's phenomenal. Like, that's just such a crazy benchmark to hit. And I just wanted to quickly say, like, a huge thanks to Chris Faber, who is obviously here for about 500 of those. Founder of the show, everything. We want to have him on the show, folks. I know people always ask about it. Chris wants to be on the show. We're working on it. Chris will be on the show one day. We're sure Chris will be on the show one day. I wanted it to be today, but not yet. We're hoping to have Chris on the show
I feel
soon,
like
but big shout out to Chris for
You know,
honestly
there's a-
founding the show.
you know when there's a group project and the rest of the group does the majority of the work, and then the
Yes.
one guy shows up and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't really contribute to this, but what are we doing for the presentation?" I feel like that guy that just like signed his name on at the end. That really didn't do most of the work,
Well,
but is
you were-
on at the end. And
You were also part of the come up though. Like when Canucks Convo,
Yeah.
because like Canucks Convo's always been all right, but we were never like have our own studio. Like we used
Yeah.
to do the show in my grandpa's house, and that was because we couldn't afford a studio, right? Like we were never like you were part, and you did the shows with us.
Yeah.
At Nonno's house, like you were part of those, and you were part of the come up of the show, and obviously now it's it's a lot more popular than it was. But like Chris was part of that too, right? Like Chris, when we did the show at his place, that was kind of when we were starting to be like, okay, like we can actually do this 5 days a week. We can do the live show. Obviously, big shout out to Nation Network who enable us to do this show and deliver it live. The show's evolved a lot, and I know we have some day one listeners that still listen to the show, and we've got a lot of new listeners, obviously, but it's honestly, it means so much to me that we've hit 700, and I was texting with Chris today. Chris sends his love to everybody, and it's honestly just remarkable, Harm, that we've gotten to 700 episodes. It's pretty crazy to me, but and like I said, like I know you made the joke about the group project. First of all, I thought you were about to say that was how my contributions to the show were.
No.
No, you seriously, like you were a part of the come up, and like Chris agrees with me on this. Like, there's nobody better to be the co-host on this show than you. So I'm happy you're here, and yeah, give yourself some credit. You were part of the come up too, for sure.
Well, we got to plan something big for 1,000. Like, we forgot about 700 until now.
Yeah,
so
like
we
I
gotta do
texted
something
you this morning. I was like, dude, today's 700. Yeah.
For 1,000. We'll have to do something big.
We'll do something
We'll
big.
get like our own silver stick or something.
Yes.
Oh,
the
actually,
silver
that's a
stick.
good idea. The Canucks
love
combo.
it.
So that'll come sometime during next season, probably around this time, depending on how many summer shows we do. So early in next season, we'll be hitting 1,000, and yeah, we'll make it a fun event for sure.
Absolutely. Chris will be on that episode. Has to be. Chris will be on before that. We think. So, anyways, yeah. Shout out to the listeners. Shout out to the people who consume this show, whether that be on YouTube, whether that be on podcast. You know, shout out to the people who read Canucks Army and come from Canucks Army and listen to this show now. Like, we appreciate each and every one of you. So, yeah, I just wanted to at least acknowledge that today was episode 700. In other news, exciting announcements, big announcements, Harm. We've got a new regular guest on this show because he is the latest hire at the Nation Network. Folks, this is just a massive get. I've known about this for a while, and it's been hard for me to keep it to myself. I think I mentioned it to Harm like as soon as it was happening because of how excited I was. But Jeff Marek, the Jeff Marek, is joining the Nation Network. He's going to be writing over at Daily Faceoff, our national brand. He's going to be appearing on all of our shows across the network. You're going to see him at Canucks Army. You're going to see him on Canucks Convo. It's really exciting to have Jeff joining us. I couldn't be happier. Jeff is just a massive get for us as a company. And yeah, like, again, I talk about the come up, and not to get all sentimental here, but like when I took over at Canucks Army, the site was, you know, very, very storied, but like in terms of what it was generating in terms of revenue and all that sort of stuff, like we've seen a lot of growth, and I've been very fortunate and lucky to have some great mentors to kind of help me get on the right track. But shout out to Jay Downton, who's been on this show a lot in the past. Shout out to Bag Milk, who's going to be on the show tomorrow. Obviously, like, those guys have been very instrumental in this acquisition, and Almo Delic as well. We've talked about him as well in the past. There's just so many people, you know, Jay and Bag Milk specifically, that have been here since the start and have been a part of Nation Network growing. And honestly, man, like, as somebody who got in, like, I started with Nation Network in like 5 years ago, and I was just a contributor at Canucks Army. To see the growth that we've had, you know, even being able to bring in the money, Harmon Dial as a co-host on this show, Jeff Patterson, all the growth that we've had, the investment in the Vancouver market, specifically Sakaris and Price, rink-wide Vancouver. It means a lot to me, and it's a really good day today to see Jeff Marek joining the Nation Network.
Yeah, he's one of the best, most genuine people. Like, forget how talented he is as a broadcaster, as a reporter, but just as a human being, even just getting a chance to run into him a couple times at different NHL entry drafts and have conversations with him. Truly one of the best people in this industry that I've met, and I'm so excited. Plus, now I think at this point, the Nation Network is, between J-Pat and Jeff Marek, just cornering the market on all the best Jeffs in the hockey media landscape.
That's the way I look at it. We're going to have Jeff's on all the time. Jeff's going to join us weekly. Jeff Patterson joins us weekly, and then Jeff Marek's going to be also a regular guest on this show as well. Just a wealth of hockey knowledge all over the place. I'm so excited. I'm very, very excited to have Jeff Marek joining.
And I think it sounds like Marek's first hit with us will be sometime next week. I was chatting behind the scenes, and it could have been tomorrow, but we've got Bagged Milk tomorrow to preview the Canucks Oilers. So Marek will be some point next week, and we're really looking forward to having him as a regular guest on Canucks Combo.
Yeah, Jeff wanted to join us tomorrow, but Bagged Milk told him no. Friday is my spot. So Bagged Milk told Jeff he couldn't join the show. But anyways, yeah, extremely happy to see Jeff Marek joining Nation Network. And honestly, yeah, like, it's crazy the growth that we've had and the investment that we keep getting in the Vancouver market, and we couldn't have done it without all the readers of Canucks Army, all the listeners of Canucks Convo. I know I'm getting sentimental, and I don't usually do that, but
it's been a very sentimental show today, huh?
It means a lot to me, honestly. Like, it just, you know, the other thing I talked about, how you were part of the come up, Harm. I have a theory that if you weren't the co-host on this show and we just hired, someone that I didn't have a pre-existing relationship with, and they didn't really know how to like keep me in check, I'm pretty sure we would have lost a lot of listeners with me just bulldozing the show with my vibes takes and not having any pushback on anything that I say. I'm pretty sure we would have lost a lot of listeners rather than gained a bunch.
Half my job is just to keep you on a leash with your takes and push back and stop you from taking victory laps that are completely unwarranted. I enjoy wrangling you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes. We should also mention Jeff has his own show as well called The Sheet with Jeff Marek. You can find it now on Apple Podcasts, so make sure you do that. Is it just Sheet or The Sheet? No, it is The Sheet. It'd be funny if the name was just Sheet, but it's called The Sheet with Jeff Marek. You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. I just realized we haven't done anyone else yet. This was basically anyone else. This was what I was saving for anyone else, but I forgot to get to it. So let's do anyone else. Let's see what the chat has to say today. I know there's some comments about you and I, our dynamic on the show, but let's get to anyone else, which is proudly presented by White Spot. At White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With the new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home. The new menu features mouthwatering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, the home-style pot roast, and backed by popular demand, the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal, perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. Okay, Harm, I've got an anyone else for you. How long have you been writing about the Canucks? Just throwing that out there. I'm just gonna ask you.
Like full time?
Not full time. Just like how long have you been like? I know you had some time at Canucks Army.
Yeah,
you had some time. Let's skip the Daily Hive. Let's skip the 13-year-old part.
Yeah.
When did you start like actually writing about the Canucks pretty regularly?
My grade 12 year, so that would have been 2017, 2018.
Okay, so that's a year before I did, because I did first year university. That's when I started. So 2017 it would be for you, right? Or no, yeah. 2017-18 was our grad year because we're the same age. When it's 2028, which isn't that far away, are you going to put in your bio like 10 plus years in sports media?
I've never thought of this.
I've been thinking about this.
Well, yeah, because you love taking victory laps.
I think I'm going to. I think because I'll be 28 years old and I'll be like, 10 plus years in sports media. I think I'm going to do it. I think that's a great thing to throw in a bio.
If you were in my shoes, you would have taken credit, counted the 13-year-old and been like 15 plus years. And like it wouldn't have even been a question.
Yeah. Yep. I used to do pretend play-by-play when I was watching my brother play hockey. Like I have an older brother. I was like 8 or 9 when I did that. Throw that in the bio. Bro, 20 years. I've been at this 20 years. Started when I was 9 years old. No, I think I'm gonna do it. But people were talking about our age yesterday, Harm. People in the chat were like, like this show, I've been on this show since 2019, 5 years. I've been on this show longer than I've been at Canucks Army. Okay. So there's people who have like basically watched me grow up. Like I'm turning 25 in February, and there's people who have listened to me talk Canucks since I was like 19 years old. Like that's crazy to me that there's people that have been there that long and literally like, I moved out for the first time and I talked about that experience when it was happening. And now, obviously like I'm about to get married and people have been here since I was like 19 years old. So anyways, I'm not trying to get too sentimental, but it's hard not to when I look back at 700 episodes of this show.
Yeah, let's just keep going on.
Let's get to the.
I'm not in as I'm sentimental, but this is a lot.
All right, let's get to
the Canucks play a hockey game tonight, and there's some questions.
They do play a hockey
we want to
game.
get to.
This one from Sniper. Harm, favorite spot to eat in LA? We're not starting with a hockey question.
If anybody likes Italian food, the Nice Guy is amazing. It's out in West Hollywood. I went there last year. Probably the best Italian spot I've ever been to.
Wow. Okay. All right. Sniper, at the 1,001 episode mark, At the 1,000 episode mark, Quads might finally be able to take a legal drink to celebrate. This one from Nar. Quads and Harm are like the right and left hemispheres of the same brain. That's a really good way to put it. 7-6 is asking, when will Baines be back? Let's dive in on this one, Harm, because I talked about a Jonathan Lekermacki call-up after the Atu Ratu news, and the way I kind of put it was that the opportunity that Arsh Baines found himself in last week, playing top 6 minutes with Elias Pettersson, to me, after the start we've seen, like, that opportunity, if it arises again, that opportunity goes to Jonathan Lekermacki, not Arshdeep Baines. That being said, if they need a bottom 6 guy, like, that's when I think Baines gets the call up.
For sure. It's not even related so much to Baines specifically and how he plays, but rather the circumstances in Vancouver with the rest of the lineup, potential injuries. And I do think it's going to likely take an injury or two for Baines to come back up, especially because Joshua should be ready at some point soon, which is another roster / lineup spot that you have to count for.
Okay, this one from Karn in the chat. What is the potential in a Hogs Ratu Sprong line? Could that be a serious liability defensively? That line wasn't very good against Anaheim. Quietly, like, there's a lot of good positive takeaways, but that was the Canucks' worst line. Obviously, Ratu takes the penalty. It's not the game he was looking for back up with the big club, but yeah, they could be a serious liability defensively, but also, like, they're not playing against top competition. And ultimately, they didn't play great against Anaheim, and that was a matchup that they probably should have won. It's not going to be easier tonight, that's for sure. So you're looking for a bit of a bounce back from that trio, but right now, like, that line, it has Sprong, it has Höglander, it has Ratu. There's no real identity to it just yet, but maybe they could build something, because again, there's enough offensive punch on that line that they should be able to build something.
Well, also, Höglander is a legit top 9 player and potentially more like fringe top 6 at this point, even though he hasn't gotten the consistent opportunity. So to have him on the fourth line, yeah, I agree in the sense that there's nobody on that line that is above average defensively at the NHL level. But given how much of a luxury it is to have Höglander on the fourth line, and even with Sprong, he's proven to be a quality, productive fourth liner. You at least have talent on that line, and the identity would be you're looking at them to be this sheltered secondary scoring line. Now, I do think at some point before the trade deadline, I would expect the Canucks to look at adding another centerman, especially if Suter is going to spend more time on the wing. Potentially a third line center, so you could bump Bluger back to a fourth line role, because imagine all of a sudden it's Höglander, Bluger, and Sprong. All of a sudden, that's one of the best fourth lines in the NHL, because Bluger's skill set, his defensive reliability is the perfect way to complement their skill set. But even if it's not a third line center necessarily, I expect them to get another just like depth center body, so that they aren't so that they have more options.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's questions in the chat right now about trades. There's some questions about trading Elias Pettersson. How long is Trader Jim going to wait before they start looking at trading Elias Pettersson? We're not going to get into that today. But there are questions about like who the Canucks might go out and get this season. And I think, like, Harm, has your opinion changed on when they're going to make a trade? Because something I said yesterday, and I'll say it to you as well, is that the soft nature of their November schedule, like the only real legit opponent they have in the month of November is the New York Rangers and the LA Kings tonight. Like, the Kings are a good team, but the nature of their schedule kind of makes me think, like, you don't need to strike and go get a defenseman right away. It became really apparent this team needed a defenseman when they played the Carolina Hurricanes, when they played the New Jersey Devils. It became really apparent how badly they needed to go get some help. But against these worst teams, like, you can kind of mask those problems a little bit. So, and again, you're getting great goaltending, so that doesn't hurt either. So my opinion, like, they can wait, and I think they will wait. I think it'll be closer to like the end of December before we see them make their first big trade.
Yeah, that was my take originally when that poll question sort of came up, was to say there's, well, not necessarily related to how soft the schedule was, but just in general that why not wait for to get a larger sample size on where exactly this team is at. And you made the point earlier, maybe it was earlier this week or late last week, about even just having certainty around where exactly is Pettersson at. And being sure that this team can profile as a bona fide Stanley Cup contender before you choose to push your chips all the way in. And also, you have to wait for the right targets to sort of emerge, right? Zadorov, part of the reason that opportunity became available well in advance of the deadline is because we saw the Dan Milstein tweet and sort of going public, and that definitely put the heat on Craig Conroy to, okay, this player is clearly unhappy in Calgary here. And at that point, there's if a player is unhappy in a locker room or on a team, you don't want that player there that long, especially when you know it's an expiring contract. But the point is, if Zadorov's agent hadn't come out that publicly with Zadorov being unhappy with his ice time, then maybe the Flames would have waited for the market to develop and wouldn't have felt an urgency to be dangling him right away.
Yeah. Speaking of Zadorov, James Moore in the chat said, I see Zadorov is getting shredded by Bruins fans and media for poor play versus contract. Lindholm as well, Harm. I'm not sure if you read my work. I know you read everything I put out, but yesterday I wrote 12 NHL players that Kiefer Sherwood has more goals than. Elias Lindholm got started with 5 points in 3 games. Looked like a great signing for Boston. His last goal came on October 12th, and he's stuck at 2 goals. Nikita Zadorov as well, also struggling right now in Boston.
Yeah, I was telling you, wasn't I, that Zadorov and Lindholm, the contracts that they signed, they're good players, but at those prices, I was skeptical that they'd be able to live up to those deals. And I really think it's funny. Boston for so long has looked like a team that should fall off, right? When Tuukka Rask retired originally.
Sorry, my malfunction there for a second.
That's okay. You're good.
Before Swayman had really emerged, and that was the time when people were thinking, oh, the core is aging. They're finally going to start declining. And then when Bergeron and Krejci retired, and no, they've got no center depth, and they still kept going. We'll see. It's too early to say that they're in trouble, but they've had a really tough time scoring goals, and I wasn't really a fan of the offseason moves that they had.
All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you proudly by Bet365. Okay, we're taking the Montreal Canadiens, the most lopsided odds you can find. Okay, they're plus 275 against the New Jersey Devils tonight. I don't know why. The Devils, I've correctly predicted. There's been shutouts in the past 3 Devils games, and I've correctly predicted the Devils lost to the Wagon Flames, because obviously, but Montreal tonight, plus 275, you can get them right now, plus 275 to take down the Devils. I know I big-brained it when I said, oh, Devils probably went to Cowboys the night before. I'm not going to do that again. I'm just taking the Habs at plus 275. It's wonky odds, but that's how I like to bet. So that was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. All right, we will close it out there. Harmon, thanks for joining us from the road. I'll be back tomorrow in studio with Patrick Johnson. Bag Milk will join the show to help us preview Saturday's game against the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, PJ and I will be back tomorrow to break down tonight's game against the LA Kings. But for my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, thank you so much for listening to 700 episodes of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.